October 13, 1972, Friday, 45 members of the Uruguayan rugby team, along with their families and friends, were flying towards Santiago, the capital of Chile. The Fairchild FH-227D aircraft had taken off from Montevideo, made a stop in Buenos Aires, and was now attempting to reach its destination by crossing over the Andes Mountains. No one knew that this journey would become one of history's most compelling survival stories. The young athletes were joking on the plane, discussing upcoming matches, sharing their dreams. Among them were 19-year-old Nando Parado, 22-year-old Roberto Canessa, and team captain Marcelo Perez. None of them knew that their lives would completely change in just a few hours. At 3:30 in the afternoon, while the plane was trying to cross the Andes Mountains at 11,500 feet altitude, the pilot made a navigation error. Due to cloudy weather conditions, visibility was limited. Suddenly, the plane's right wing struck the mountain peak. "What's happening?" someone screamed. The plane lurched with a horrific noise. Metal pieces were breaking off. Luggage was scattering everywhere. Nando Parado heard his mother scream, "Nando!" Then everything went dark. The plane's tail broke off and rolled into the abyss, taking several passengers with it. The main fuselage slid to a stop on the snow-covered slope. The silence that followed the initial impact revealed only groaning sounds and the howling of the wind. 29 people were alive. But this was just the beginning. Among the survivors were medical students Roberto Canessa and Gustavo Zerbino. They began treating the wounded. Marcelo Perez assumed leadership and called for everyone to stay calm. "They will definitely find us," said Marcelo. "We must stay calm and act orderly." There was very little food on the plane. A few bottles of wine, chocolate, and snacks. For 29 people, this food would last only a few days. At night, temperatures dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius. The first night was terrible. The plane's metallic fuselage swayed in the wind, and the cold penetrated to their bones. While Roy Harley tried to repair the radio, others attempted to build barriers against the wind using seats and luggage. But the biggest shock came on the third day. The news they heard on the radio was devastating. Search and rescue operations have been suspended. By the end of the eighth day, their food had run out. Hunger had become unbearable. Gustavo Zerbino stepped forward to address the group. "Friends, we must face reality. If we want to live, we must use the bodies of our deceased friends." Silence. No one spoke. Rugby player Numa Turcati said through tears, "But these are our friends." Roberto Canessa replied, "If they were alive, they would do the same for us. This is about survival." This decision was not easy. Most of them being Catholic, the young men battled with their consciences, but the alternative was death. Canessa took the first step. Others gradually joined in. Some never ate, trying to survive by only drinking melted snow. On the 10th day, a terrible avalanche struck the plane. 8 more people died. The survivors were completely buried inside the aircraft. "I can't breathe," screamed Javier Mathol. Roberto Canessa began digging through the snow with a metal piece in his hand. "Stay calm. Breathe. We'll get out together." 18 hours later, they managed to emerge from under the snow. Now only 19 people remain. Most had completely lost morale. Fido Strauch said, "We should give up now. No one will find us." But Nando Parado thought differently. He stood up and said, "Then we must save ourselves." On the 50th day, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa made an escape plan. The 3 strongest people, Parado, Canessa, and Antonio Vizintin, decided to walk westward to reach Chile. "We'll take food for 10 days and start walking. If we can't reach anywhere in 10 days, we'll return," said Parado. The preparation days were difficult. They prepared food and made warm clothing. After group leader Marcelo died in the avalanche, natural leadership had passed to Parado. Before setting out, they had their final conversations. Everyone was counting on them. Alfredo Delgado said, "You are our only hope." On December 12th, the trio set out. Behind them, they left 16 friends trapped among the snowy peaks. The first days were terrible. Snow was knee-deep, the cold unbearable. On the third day, they sent Vizintin back to stretch their food supplies. Parado and Canessa continued. After crossing the mountains, they saw green valleys. Hope. On the 9th day, they found a farm in the distance. Chilean shepherd Sergio Catalan was surprised when he saw them. Where did these two men come from? Uruguayan plane, shouted Parado. We crashed 72 days ago. 14 of my friends are still in the mountains. Catalan's eyes filled with tears. He immediately called for help. December 22nd, 1972. Chilean Air Force helicopters were flying toward the mountains. When pilot Fernando Echevarria found the plane's wreckage, he was amazed. How could people survive at this altitude in these conditions? When the helicopter landed, the survivors ran toward it crying. Javier Mathol asked, "Are you real? Am I dreaming?" They took 6 people in the first trip. The next day, they came back for the remaining 8 people. The last person to leave was Eduardo Strauch. As he left the wreckage, he said, "Goodbye, my friends." He was bidding farewell to his 29 deceased companions. 72 days. 16 young men survived in the glacial desert at 3,600 meters altitude in the Andes Mountains. The traumas they experienced, the decisions they made, and the resilience they showed are among the most moving examples in human history. For years, they struggled with the psychological effects of this event, but they all became strong individuals. Nando Parado became a businessman, Roberto Canessa a heart surgeon, Gustavo Zerbino, Uruguay's Minister of Health. This story shows us that the human spirit can find hope even in the darkest moments. It can survive even in the most impossible conditions. And sometimes taking the greatest risk is worth it for freedom. The 72 days in the Andes Mountains is not just a story of escape from disaster. It's a triumph of the power of human will, friendship, and hope. The mountain tried to kill us, but we were stronger. Nando Parado.